All right, hello class, welcome. This is going to be a short video on how to create a smooth line graph from your data. And in this example, we're specifically looking at our osmosis class data, which includes the class averages for the percent mass change at each concentration of sugar, 0 molar, zero point 0.2, zero point 0.6, and 1.0. Now, when you make these graphs, you're going to be plotting two sets of numbers, one on the x-axis and one on the y-axis. And as such, we can't have this letter M there. It's not going to allow us to graph that. Excel's not going to recognize this as a number series. So I'm just going to rewrite that down here, 0, 0.2, 0.6, and 1.0. Then at the top bar, there's a Insert tab. Go ahead and click there. And then if you come over here to your ribbon, there's many different options for what sort of bar charts or scatter plots you want to create, or a pie chart even. And what we want to do is use the scatter plot. There are several options for a scatter plot, one that includes markers with no lines, and one that includes lines with no markers. And you can have a combination of both, one which makes rigid lines and one that smooths out the data so you have sort of curved lines that are estimated through the algorithm of Excel. And that's the type of graph that we want to create in this course. Now, the issue with this here is that it's randomly selecting a set of rows here to try and create some data. And that's not what we want. We want to make sure we're deciding what it chooses. So you're going to click on the line here, and if you clicked on it just right, you can see it's been selected here. It has these little smaller circles around your lines there, and you can hit backspace to delete, or you can right click and then click delete. Now we have a blank palette in order to add our data. So right click again and scroll up and select the Select Data button, and this will allow us to input our data. If you go to the Legend Entry Series, click Add, and it will ask you to enter in as many different lines as you want. Now we're only graphing one line here, so it makes it a little bit easier. And it wants you to first provide a name for this series, and the name we could probably use here is percent mass change at each concentration. The x-axis down here is going to be your independent variable. So this is the variable that isn't affected by the other variable. There's two variables we're looking at. Once again, the sugar concentration and the change in mass. And so the sugar concentration is what stands by itself and is unaffected by how much water moves in or out of our dialysis bag. So our X series is going to be the independent variable of 0, 0.2, 0.6, and 1 molar. Now we need to change the Y series. Y is going to be your dependent variable, and that's going to be the change in mass. So we'll click on 0.9, hold, and drag across, and that will select all of that data in that series. You can see it says sheet 1 in the formula equals sheet 1. That's represented right here, sheet 1. And it has B9, which is the start. If we look at B and 9, that's the start of the data series, and ends in E9, which is this final number in the data series. So we've highlighted all of them. There's that colon there in the middle. So what that means is from B9 through E9 is what we want to graph. And we did a similar thing for the X values for B11 through E11. Once you've entered your independent and dependent variables, go ahead and click OK. And it has it added there. Then you will click OK. And there's your graph. Now, sometimes we need to adjust the graph to have a better range. So for example, this goes to 1.2. We probably want to just shorten that to the range that we actually have. So I'm going to click on this bar here, then right click, Format Access. And here this little sidebar opens up and we can determine our range for this axis. So we definitely want it to start at 0. That's our first point. and we're going to have it end at 1, which is our final measurement that we've taken at 1 molar sugar. Excellent. We can do a similar thing for the y-axis, although our final value looks like it was 12.1, and so it's just over 12. So we can leave it at 12, or sorry, leave it at 14, or we can right-click, hit Format Axis, and maybe we could just change that to I don't know, 13. And that way, oh, and sometimes it will set a negative value. Thinking you want a negative value, you might have to reset that to 0 there. But that way, we're kind of making as tight of a graph as we can um, around our values. Okay, so that is great. Now, the other thing missing here is if you look at this data, it doesn't tell us what's going on this X and this Y axis. We need to add axis titles. So go ahead and click the plus sign here, and this gives you options of things you want to add to your table. And we're going to check we already have axes and a chart title, and there's grid lines included. We're going to click on the axis title now, and that provides axis titles that we can then name. So let's go ahead and name our x-axis, and our x-axis is actually the sugar concentration in moles. So we'll put in parentheses M. And then this right here is going to be the change in dialysis bag mass. And then in parentheses, we want to state what unit we're using, which is grams. Okay, there you have it. There is your graph that you want to print off. So you would click on the graph and then go to File, go to Print, and then you can print selected chart only. So because I was clicked on that chart, when I hit the print, we can see print selected chart only. Go ahead and print that off and staple it to the back of your handout. And that should do it. Thank you so much for watching the video, and good luck with this.